these questions. But I wanted to ask you guys, have any of you followed this issue, or are you aware that this issue is now on the table? They're also very shy, as you can tell. But is this something that you've noticed in the papers? You can be honest. Okay, they have no opinion whatsoever as good reference custodians. Now let's take a look at the Senate proposal. According to news reports, it's as follows. The country will be subdivided into 11, mind you, 11 federal states. Now let's take a look at these states, since you and I might wake up one day finding ourselves residents in one of them. Now here they are with their state capitals too. The first is the state of Northern Mindanao. And if you notice this blue thing here, when we'll be showing you in these maps, the blue space is the proposed federal capital. So in the case of the state of Northern Luzon, it's Tuguegarao City. Now for the second would be the state of Central Luzon, with its capital in Tarlac City. The third being the state of Southern Tagalog, with its capital in Tagaytay, which is probably the nicest state capital being proposed. The fourth being the state of Bicol, which is a homogeneous arrangement with the capital in Legazpi City. The fifth has the most peculiar name, the state of Minparom. And I don't know where that came up from, and its capital would be in Mamburao. The sixth is the state of Eastern Visayas, with its capital in Catbalogan City. The seventh being the state of Central Visayas. And I hope you're paying attention to the way these states are being organized, with its capital in Toledo City, which is, of course, the bridge between places like San Carlos City in Negros and the Cebu area. The eighth is the state of Western Visayas, with its capital here in Iloilo City. And the ninth is the state of Northern Mindanao, with its capital in Cagayan de Oro, of course. And the 10th is the state of Southern Mindanao, with its capital in Davao City. And the 11th, of course, is the state of Bangsamoro, with its capital in Marawi City. Now, we mentioned 11th, but of course there is a 12th, which is an existing area, because that would be Metro Manila. Metro Manila would be constituted as the federal administrative region. Now, the executive department, that is the presidency, will remain in Metro Manila. And this is something interesting about the Pimentel proposals, because it takes off the table a very divisive issue the last time around, which was the abolition of the strong executive that we're used to. Now the presidency will be retained and the presidency will remain in Manila. Congress, however, which will be bicameral and not unicameral, will be located in, of all places, in Tagbilaran City, out of sight and perhaps out of mind. Now, where do these proposals leave our regions, on the other hand, which is here on this handy-dandy Wikipedia map? We have 17 regions at present. Now, shouldn't they have provided a basis for new federal states? After all, provinces have evolved a relationship with each other based on the present regions. Now, one obstacle is that forming new states, a case of consolidating territory and resources, clashes with the tendency of provincial politicians to protect themselves by gerrymandering or passing laws to create smaller and smaller provinces that serve their electoral interests. So again, where does this leave our regions? They're out of the picture. The regions, in a sense, would give way to these new proposed states. Now, going back to the point of gerrymandering, we have gone from 52 provinces in 1951 to 81 provinces as of 2007, and there are several more provinces on the table. Now, Indonesia and Malaysia, on the other hand, haven't gerrymandered on this scale. Thailand has actually reduced the number of its provinces, and if you'd like to read more about this, you can consult my column titled Gerrymandering from August 6, 2007. Now, federalism ignores this reality, the reality of gerrymandering, altogether. So if we return to the proposed states, what are the other changes being proposed? Each state will elect 6 senators, and Filipinos overseas will elect 9 senators. Now, the Senate would thus go from the 24 members it's had since 1916 to a membership of 75. And as an appetizer for the House, which would have a maximum of 350 members, the term limit, currently 3 terms, would be raised to a maximum of 4 terms, still at 3 years per term for representatives. Senators, on the other hand, will stay at a maximum of 2 terms of 6 years per term, so no term extensions for the senators. And finally, since we should all be following the money, one big reason federalism is attractive is that provinces think it'll be a way to guarantee they keep more money for themselves. Now, here's a couple of slides we lifted from Senator Pimentel's proposal, which details how the distribution of our taxes would take place. Take a look. In the first place, you'll see that in the sharing of national taxes, the bulk of taxes will stay with the states, 80%. 20% will be remitted to the federal government. But you may have noticed as well, and we'll take a look at the next slide, which shows how the states themselves will apportion the 80% of the taxes that they keep. 30% will go to the state governments, and 70% will go to the provinces. But you may have noticed that, as former National Treasurer Liling Briones recently put it on abs-cbn.news.com, what these proposals do is add a new layer to our government. We've had to live with two layers, our national and local governments. Now you'd have state governments. And since existing provinces will be retained within the proposed federal states, the implications of this is that we'll now have three layers. You'll have your local government, your state government, and your national government. So this will be adding to and not reducing our government costs. Now, whether this is exactly what the proponents of federalism had in mind is what we're going to tackle when we return.
Books featured by The Explainer are available on shelves or on order at a different bookstore.
Today we have with us a well-known supporter of federalism, former chair of the Consultative Commission for Charter Change, and former UP President, Dr. Jose Abueva. Welcome back to the show, Doctor.
Thank you, Mr. Quezon.
Well, let me begin by asking you to identify if there are any differences between the proposals for federalism that you had put on the table in the past and many other groups had considered, and what Senator Pimentel and the Senate have signed on to this time around.
First of all, I want to emphasize the commonalities, the idea of devolving power from the national government to the local and regional governments. And so that's very important. But there is one very important difference. In the case of Senator Pimentel, he would like to divide the country all at once into 11 states, federal states. In other words, establish the federal state all at once. Yeah. We have learned from several years now of consultations that it would be better to have a transition. For example, before an autonomous region is created, in transition to becoming a federal state, we should involve the people in the regions to be formed. That is what we did with respect to forming ARMM, for example. There was an organic act, and then there was a plebiscite, and the people voted on it. So our proposal is to ask people in different regions, as you said, there are administrative regions now, consult them. Are they interested in forming an autonomous region? If they are, then they petition Congress. And Congress will form or formulate an organic act, which is already defined in the amended Constitution. And in this organic act, there is a basic subdivision between the national or federal government and the autonomous regions or future federal states. And they will be given this organic act. And if they agree to it, then there will be a plebiscite. So again, the people will be consulted, and they will vote on forming an autonomous region. And this will be done around the country. Those who are interested can petition to form an autonomous region. Those who are not can wait and see. So this way, there's...
But where would this leave the way government is being run? Because, for example, you could have the possibility where we can expect large parts of Mindanao and much of the Visayas to immediately petition for federalism. Other parts may not be interested. Won't this lead to a pretty nasty tug of war for resources then?
No, I think on the other hand, it will make for a rational, gradual change in the structure of our government.